Portland bypass, the earthquake strong. The Portland bypass, in my estimation, is a very significant project, and kudos is given to the government of Jamaica for taking the charge and moving forward with a project such as this. As you should know, the eastern section of the country is most seismically active, and where this bypass will take place or where it runs is along or adjacent to where there are numerous mainland earthquakes that occur on Jamaica's shores. Now, with this being said, what we have to now look into is that chances are the phase one is going to be the most challenging, or should be the most challenging section, not just in the context of the construction, but even in the context of the maintenance. Reason being is that, among other things, this location, based on the earthquake epicenters as how I observed them since 2020, has been experiencing significant amount of epicenters within that region, Hope Bay, Buff Bay, and even around Ferry Hill them side, right? And then now there is even the most recent 2023 magnitude 4.1 earthquake that is somewhat within 5 kilometer radius as to where a section of the phase one highway should be running through. Now, what we have to take into consideration is that with earthquakes, it's not just about the shaking that we have to take into consideration with our infrastructure, but we have to take into consideration how the material can actually be altered during the shaking in of itself, right? So when we talk about settling or settlement, when we talk about the reality that, during shaking, fluid pressure or pore water pressure within and in between sediments can change, all of those things can present additional stress and challenge for the highway project in of itself. So it will be very interesting to determine from the angle of the contractors themselves how they will go about mitigating those challenges and ensuring that in terms of their consistent maintenance work, those challenges are being at least considered and again mitigated. Now, when we have to also look at the consideration, the geology, Boundbrook area is within a zone that has volcanics. The factor of this zone is that with it being highly weathered, eroded, then we also take into consideration that, we talk about clays when it's broken down. Landslides, flooding, all of those events are common within Boundbrook. So, we have to also look into the reality that this construction project is dealing with like the most significantly challenging geo events that, in my estimation, the highways that run through Jamaica can actually be exposed to right about now. So, during this phase, phase one, a lot of work ought to be done in ensuring that the data that is gathered, the hydrologic data, rainfall data, seismic data, right, and even from the angle of the soil mechanics and the rock mechanics data in terms of how they behave under different seismic amplifications, right, in terms of the velocities, and even in the context of within certain pressures, stress loads, that kind of thing. All of that within the lab, within the field, ideally should be taking place to, as best as is possible, provide the necessary guidance in the area of the construction and in the area of the longevity of the project itself, right? But yeah, this is just giving you some insight in terms of what is the nature of the work, what's the enormity of the task in terms of the challenge, at the end of the day, why it is very significant that in the context of Jamaica's development, this is a very good move moving forward.